Donald Trump facing a firestorm of backlash after comments he made to the New York Times regarding our NATO allies. He was asked, quote, can the members of NATO, including the new members in the Baltics, count on the United States to come to their military aid if they were attacked by Russia, and count on us fulfilling our obligations? Donald Trump answered by saying, quote, have they fulfilled their obligations to the U.S.? If they fulfilled their obligations to us, the answer is yes. When pressed on this, to clarify, he said, well, I'm not saying if not, I'm saying right now there are many countries that have not fulfilled their obligations to us. Here now is Ambassador John Bolton, AEI Senior Fellow and Fox News contributor. Ambassador, welcome to the show. What do you make of those comments?
Well, I was very disturbed by them. You know, this is an alliance. This is not a bookkeeping matter. I agree completely with Donald Trump that a lot of our NATO allies have not borne their fair share by spending as a percentage of their GNP what they committed to spend. But I tell you, when you call into question the automaticity of the NATO guarantee, you are opening the door for Vladimir Putin or other potential aggressors who see a wedge between the NATO countries, and they will drive through it. The point here is we don't want NATO involved in military conflict. We want a deterrent capability that keeps the Russians at bay. And when the leader of the NATO alliance itself opens its commitment in public view like that, it's a deep wound.
Let me play the devil's advocate of the other side for a second here. I mean, one thing that you might say is that, you know, the U.S. has been carrying the load in a large part for NATO, that there are many countries that have been free riders along the way, that it's not fair to be carrying most of the burden. Obviously, we benefit a lot, but you have to get serious at some point about making other countries fulfill their obligations. What do you think?
Sure, they should spend more money on their defense. They don't owe us money. Let's be clear about this. This is an obligation to spend their own money on their own defense. But let's also be clear about NATO. Given that we've got free riders in it, given that we've got many allies around the world who are free riders, we're not doing it for them. We're doing this for us. If we don't protect our interests around the world, nobody else is going to do it for us. And imagine what the reaction is in places like Israel and Japan when they see the most successful politico-military alliance in the history of the world. The first time in history the United States entered into an alliance in peacetime, called into question. This is very, very disturbing, and the enemies of the United States are looking at this and saying this is a real opening for us.
There are people right now, though, that would say that we haven't always backed our NATO allies recently. I mean, you look at what's gone on in France with ISIS in particular. You know, our own president wasn't there to march with Francois Hollande after those attacks in the streets, that we haven't stood up with our allies lately, that we haven't talked strongly behind Israel, that we've made deals with Iran. I mean, it already seems like NATO isn't what it was.
Well, I think that the Obama administration's foreign policy has been wretched. There's no doubt about that. But alliances transcend political administrations. This is an alliance of blood and honor. This is not for bookkeepers and accountants. And let's be clear, when we look at the pluses and minuses of NATO to America, since 1949 and the Treaty of Washington, NATO's Article 5, the common defense provision, has been invoked exactly once. In defense of the United States when we were attacked on 9/11, and they did it within 24 hours of the attack. None of the Europeans said, well, let's review what the United States is doing. An alliance is an alliance among friends.
Absolutely. I hear you in spite of the music behind you. Thank you so much. You're a hero for doing that with all that going on. We appreciate your insight, David.